Welcome everybody. It's so good to see you here today. We are on the shores of Lake Michigan, one of my favorite places. Thanks, first of all, for joining my YouTube channel so far. And I hope that you have enjoyed those adventures into musical theater performances that I have done. As promised, I'm introducing today informances about my crooner CD called Voice of Love. And I'm starting here on the shores of Lake Michigan because it's where I grew up. And the essence of the disc and the songs on it goes way back to when I was a kid. And we'll be talking about that in the informances as I share with you each of those songs from a live performance I just did in February. I want to share with you an interview that I did. In performing them, it's been maybe a couple of years now, and somebody asked me to actually talk about the inception of Voice of Love, why it's called that, and what my passion was for the project. And so I invite you to view that now before we get started. Thanks. Of all the years I listened to the inner critic, Ron, you're not good enough. Ron, you'll never be enough. Nobody wants to hear you. Nobody cares about you. You know, blah, 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 blah. But all the while there was this other voice, passionately, religiously, regularly saying, you know, you should do this. You go, no, no, no. No, and over and over. And so I would wrestle. I would let the inner critic and the voice of love, which I believe for me is God, wrestle, and I would fall asleep. So I just decided, you know, okay, I'm going to turn 60 years old. Enough is enough. No more. I don't know where it's going to go, but, you know, I celebrated my 60th birthday by doing that album, never knowing that it was going to become an album. It was just something that I wanted to celebrate.
So you conduct orchestras, you play viola, you sing. How did you get your passion for musical theater?
That's a very, very good story. When I was younger, my family would get together and they'd play cards and the adults would have parties. And because of the kind of funky birth order of my family, there wasn't really anybody for me to hang out with. Even if my cousins came over, they were older. And so I would watch TV, unbridled, which was one of my favorite things to do. And late at night, I happened upon the old musicals, the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, you know, stuff. I love that stuff. And I used to say, when I go to heaven, I'm going to dance like Fred Astaire. Just loved all that stuff, the song and dance. And I think even with that, my mom's mom was a church organist and pianist, and I never met her. But in our piano bench was all of Dora's old sheet music, all the, you know, the beautiful ones that have all the gorgeous photos on them. And playing piano was kind of a solace for me, and I would just go to the bench and just sight read those things, and I fell in love at a very young age with all that stuff. It's in my blood.
Awesome. So the range, I mean, I thought you had a low B flat and then in falsetto up to B flat or C up there. And how did you develop this incredible range over the years?
Well, it hasn't always been that way. When I sang in choir in high school, I was a bass, and then I sang baritone if the bass part was divided. To be honest, for the longest time, had my own voice in a box and thought I could just sing a certain range. It was clear that I was going to be what sometimes I lovingly called a bastard baritone, one that can sing really high, or a lyric baritone. But in the choral music world, they call it a baritenor. So somebody who can sing baritone and can sing tenor, but can't lay up there the way tenors do for a long period of time. So like tonight, I had several high Gs, I had, you know, I had some high pitches, and then my falsetto goes pretty high. But the real kicker was that unleashed my range was teaching voice and realizing that as I was helping my kids, my students, keep their range flexible, I should be doing the same thing with mine. And I found myself sitting at the piano for hours with them, and so I would start vocalizing and go up really, really high. When I was first moved into the area, I thought, well, I haven't launched any kind of a singing career, and it's pretty much done. I'm not going to be able to sing. We went to Ravinia, and I heard one of my favorite artists in the world, that's Tony Bennett. So we're sitting on the blanket having some wine. I told Cynthia, my wife, I'm going to go to the up closer so I can see him. So I'm walking up there, and he's singing, and I'm letting my voice trail up with his. I'm going, and he was 75. He was in his late 70s, and I was in my early 50s. And I'm thinking, that's an F sharp, that's a G. Okay, if Tony Bennett can have this newfound career. I am not done. And that also, he became my inspiration. So that's where the range comes from.
It's got to be interesting to have a career facing away from an audience as a conductor and facing an audience as a singer.
Yeah.
What's that like as a performer to have those two different personas?
Well, being a conductor there is some performance value in it, but it's nothing like singing or playing viola. And playing viola and singing are not the same. I try to make, I think I do pretty well, except for the fact when I'm singing lyrics, of course, it's very dramatic. I get into the text, or I'm wanting to express the truth. I have a phrase I tell my students: if you don't have a story to tell, sit down, because somebody else has something to say. So singing is dramatic, right? So it is a totally different world. And when you're conducting, your periphery vision orally is huge. So you're tracking all kinds of details, whereas, like I showed tonight, I'm tracking one thing: passion. The story. Tell the story. Why are these songs important to you? Why is the lyric important to you? Sell it to them, give it to them, invite them into your world.
I thought it was really important when I was at the rehearsal, hearing you and the tall gentleman do the song. I had no idea what it was about. And then when you explained it made all the difference.
Yeah.
So have you always done that? When you've done a concert, have you spoken your way to introduce people to the material before you sing it?
Often, I have, yeah. If it's If the band and I were together on a really regular basis, I probably would not explain each song the way I did tonight. But needed to give them a chance to breathe, change their music, and there really was no leader for the band. And so if I did have a leader of that band, I would just say, hey, tonight we're going to sing 15 songs. I'm going to talk here and here and here. Otherwise, you keep things going. So does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah, but and doing when there's no program, sure. And especially you're doing musical theater, I thought it was important to give people a backdrop for that stuff. But even then, if I had a pianist that I was working with all the time, and I said I'm going to sing a night of Sondheim, I probably would publish a small program, and then people could just watch and wouldn't break the dramatic moment so much.
So where would you like to take this in 2 years?
I want to take it before 2 years. I want to do this more. In people's homes, in clubs, wherever we can. I just think it's a great package, and somebody who can sing both musical theater and, the R&B, the jazz stuff with a small ensemble like this. In 2 years, when we're talking about this, I hope that you can say, so Ron, where are you going to be this month? And I can tell you. Instead of, when's your next performance? After tonight, I don't have one. So the whole idea of branding myself, getting the website going, and now having this video on the website, we'll be able to say, hey, to a bartender or to a club owner or whatever it might be, go to my website and hear what I did in Barrington at the Parker Playhouse. And I think that will, my prayer, my hope, is that I'll get hired. I just went on this amazing vocal retreat, and I have to say, I feel superbly wonderful about the state of my voice and about my ability to let go of pushing it and forcing it and trying to sell Ron Arden as a singer. And I just enjoyed singing. And I learned that on this retreat. And just, I know that those people are with me in spirit. And it's a business called Total Vocal Freedom, which marries the Alexander technique with singing and posture and breath. And I was resting before the concert and just being very self-aware about my body, making sure that it was free. And I would say tonight, I felt free when I sang at Moody for Miracles and Mysteries, but tonight was for me, a whole nother level. Yep.
I heard it. That was a both performances, and I definitely heard it.
Not because the music is any better or because of whatever, but just what I learned on that retreat. I am not the same person I was before that retreat.
So if you do this performance 3 weeks from now, and people come here for a reason. They want
Sure.
to go, they come in with expectations, they want to go in with a feeling, with a memory.
Oh my gosh. Wow. How incredibly powerful music is to change you. It's art. And art should take a person from where they are to someplace different. It might be negative, it might be positive, it might be on the same level, but it's transformative. So I think the audience is transformed. I had some students here tonight that are in their 70s, and they come to me for Toastmaster coaching, so not voice lessons. They were freaked out. They said, Ron, we had no idea the ability that you have to communicate it. It all now makes sense to them. And so, yeah, the passion of the music, I heard a bunch of people, humming Window of Hope on the way out. That's the power of the music. Transformative.
I heard the dynamics of your explanations as well as the dynamics of your musical presentation. That has to just come from decades of...
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I just am utterly convinced that there needs to be more live music, and people need to. When I went to that concert at the Chicago Winery, I was just astounded by the energy of the audience to hear an artist that they really all came to see. And I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, but I think if people come to see me for the first time, within a couple songs, they're going to know I'm really there to serve them. I want to have that opportunity to show them the power of music and how it can transform, help them to feel better, help them to have some hope and encouragement, no matter what kind of music it is. And to be sure, there's music like Sending the Clowns that's pretty sad, okay? But really, at the end of that song, in the show, Desiree and Frederick come back together, and they regret what they did to each other. And the show doesn't show it, but I believe that they are restored, and it's a really good moment. Yeah, they can laugh at themselves, and they cry, and it's okay. That is important to me. Yeah.
Last question. How'd you come up with Voice of Love?
Wow. Because of all the years I listened to the inner critic. Ron, you're not good enough. Ron, you'll never be enough. Nobody wants to hear you. Nobody cares about you. Blah, 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 blah. But all the while, there was this other voice. Passionately, religiously, regularly saying, you should do this. I go, no. Well, and over, especially, interestingly enough, when I would lay down to go to sleep at night, I would have this idea. And so I would wrestle. I would let the inner critic and the voice of love, which I believe for me is God, wrestle, and I would fall asleep. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to turn 60 years old. Enough is enough. No more. I don't know where it's going to go, but, I celebrated my 60th birthday by doing that album, never knowing that it was going to become an album. It was just something that I wanted to celebrate. And on the album jacket, I encourage people to listen to the voice and don't be discouraged by the naysayers, the inner critic. Just like Stephen Sondheim's, everybody says don't. That's just not the way to live. And the path to freedom is hearing your true soul, your true heart, the voice of love inside of you that says, you're good and you can do this. And I want other people to get that.